I want to bring in two people very close to the issue. Mary Mueller and Sarah Rogerson. They are the mother and aunt, respectively, of Eli Mueller, one of the survivors of the Oxford school shooting who was shot in the face by Ethan Crumbley in 2021. Mary and Sarah, I want to thank you so much for joining Top Story tonight. My first question is, how is Eli doing since the shooting?
He is back in school and daily struggles with PTSD and anxiety and going into the building, but he struggles through and is in the early college program there. He has a lot of survivor's guilt, which can be kind of crippling depending on the day. But he also is starting a new job and doing regular teenage things like going to prom in a few weeks. But pretty soon it'll be interrupted again because he's going to have to get some teeth implants from some of the teeth that were taken out by the bullet. So by no means is his life back to normal because he survived.
What was your initial reaction to the sentencing?
It's a piece of the puzzle. It is helpful to have accountability, especially with these parents, because it's not about what they did, it's about what they didn't do to help their child and how their inaction led to such tragedy. And we have a lot of work to do still. We should really be focusing on prevention, not just, well, what do we do afterwards and who do we hold accountable? Accountability is a piece of that, but we need more focus on how to not have it happen to a community in the first place.
Sarah, do you think justice was served?
Well, the criminal justice system offers an incomplete remedy, like my sister mentioned. You know, what justice will really feel like, at least for our family, is for people to pay attention to these systemic problems, to take an all-of-community approach, not just defer to the criminal justice system.
But
and in
Sarah,
Oxford, that's happening.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Don't you think this is sending a message across the country?
I hope so. I mean, but it should also serve as an incentive for people to investigate safe storage techniques, to educate each other peer-to-peer as parents, to invest in social emotional learning for our kids, and to really hold school districts accountable for having threat assessment plans and communities in general, so that wherever community gun violence pops up in our communities, whether it be in schools or anywhere else, we're ready and we can prevent it, not react after the fact.
Mary, do you think others needed to be charged in this case as well, or do you think they got everyone responsible?
Oh, no. I think that there are multiple people responsible and multiple systems responsible. There's so much reform that needs to take place to prevent this sort of violence from happening. And I'm a participant in the school system, and I think that there were some failures on the school system's part as well. I really want to dig into the systems, find research that shows what works and what helps with prevention so that we can not have to continually watch this over and over and over again. We weren't the first shooting in a community. We're not the last. And it's painful every time.
Sarah, when you and your sister talk about sort of prevention, are you talking about gun control, or are you talking about something much larger and relationships with children and the children that do this?
It's a multi-pronged approach. So safe storage is really the firearm-related issue. And there are programs like Be Smart, where parents can educate peer-to-peer and really normalize conversations about, do you have guns and how do you store them when my kid's playing over at your house? Investments in social emotional learning, like I mentioned, and really investing in firearms, gun violence research. It's underfunded. And without the research and science-backed solutions, we have some, threat assessment teams being one of them, but without more, we're really sort of just defaulting into the criminal justice system, which we know has a negative impact on historically minoritized groups.
Mary, before we go, if you could have talked to the Crumbleys, what would you have told them?
This is probably the toughest question. I would ask them if they really understood the impact of their inaction.
Mary Mueller, Sarah Rogerson, we thank you so much for joining us here on Top Story.